Hello and welcome to episode 66 of Rebrand Everything, the graphic design show where I redesign the logo of big or famous companies. In this video, we're going to be taking the Xbox logo and creating 5 beautiful new logo options, showing you everything from the research, the sketching, creating them in Illustrator, and then the presentation of 5 final options. So as I'm pretty sure 99% of the population already know, Xbox is Microsoft's games console. The first Xbox came out in 2001 and the logo for that looked like this. Over the years, the logo and branding has developed. But it's important to note that they have stuck with this green colour. Weird in itself because we all know that green is not a creative colour. So the current Xbox website looks like this. And you can see the logo in the top left corner here, and it's basically a simplified version of the much more 3D styled logo that was used between 2010 and 2013. And also you can see here that although the logo itself doesn't include green, it's still used as a highlight colour throughout the website and branding. Something I noticed that I thought was a little bit weird is that the video on the homepage shows the camera panning away from the logo to reveal the new console. But in this animation, the logo looks different to the actual logo that they show in the top left of the whole homepage. I'm not sure whether that's because the logo on the console is maybe, I don't know whether it's like covered with glass, so it's just like the refraction on there. But yeah, it just doesn't look the same, which I thought was pretty weird. Here is the Xbox logo amongst its top competitors. As you can see, each out of the top 3 competitors each own a different colour, and this is super important for like long-term brand recognition. Obviously, when you see that red Nintendo, if you saw the Nintendo logo in anything other than maybe white, black, grey or red, you'd think something's wrong. So they basically own that red colour. Same for PlayStation, they've got blue, and then Xbox obviously green. Now, if we just have a closer zoom in on the current Xbox logo, there is only one bit that stands out to me, and once I kind of saw this, I just couldn't stop looking at it. The bit I am talking about is the extension of the B to fill some of the space between the X and B. Here is what I might personally do to make that shape on the B feel a little bit more in harmony with the X. So basically all I'm doing there is just horizontally aligning the kind of center point of the X to the little arrow on the B and making it just look like a nice little cohesive shape rather than that kind of jarring angle. Okay then, so now we've got a little bit more background on the company and the product, it's time to start sketching out some ideas. So with the name Xbox, obviously just hearing that, a few things immediately spring to mind, and there are no prizes for guessing what they are. It's an X and a box. And basically, I just can't ever imagine them wanting to use a logo that didn't somehow incorporate an X, as it's obviously such a big part of the brand. In fact, the original console kind of was made of like this big X shape. So my sketching process was pretty much all just revolving around creating a clever icon that combines the 2 elements without it looking too generic or overly kind of literal. As gaming consoles are an exciting and engaging tech product, I feel like the logo needs to be very modern and slick, and of course it needs to work as a single colour so that it can work nicely in situations where they use like a glossy black on a matte black, like I think I've seen on the controllers, and like on the console itself, it's just kind of a single colour on that black background. And another point just on the actual name of the product here. If you have heard of the Boo Boo Kiki phenomenon, then you will know that humans subconsciously link words to shapes. And the sound of the word Xbox is kind of quite sharp and harsh, which I believe lends itself to a kind of sharper silhouette-y looking logo. So yeah, just thinking that's something to consider when designing. Okay then, so now you can see where I'm at with the sketches here and a little bit of my thought process up until this point. There's quite a few different ideas to start fleshing out in our good friend Adobe Illustrator 2021, so let's get into it. I checked my phone this morning and I noticed something that was very heartbreaking. It says here that 44% of you are not subscribed to the Rebrand Everything channel. If you are in this 44%, then I would encourage you to subscribe so you can get in early on these videos and maybe even watch the premiere live. Oh yeah, and also I nearly forgot to say, slap like now. So as it often is, my first option was more of a development on the current concept rather than a whole new concept itself. I wanted to get a different style X inside the circle, so I explored a few options before settling on this very sharp design. Something about it felt good as the single colour logo, but I just felt like it had potential for a little extra something something. I remembered that in their old logo they added this effect so it looks like the X is kind of cut out of the ground. To create my own version of this, I cut my X shape into 4 rectangles that extend below the surface of my X, which I had locked in place. Once I added the gradient, it looked like a hot mess right up until I put the X on top, selected it all, and then pressed Command 7 to create a clipping mask. It's more detail than I'd usually add to a logo, but I ran with it as it made my relatively boring silhouette look like it's got some special sauce. When I was mocking up the logo for use on different colour backgrounds for the final presentation, basically just to show how it could look in a few varied situations, I came across a bit of a challenge, which is how the heck do I show this on a green background, where obviously the star part or the X part here is green. So making the cutout white looked horribly jarring and just kind of it just didn't fit the brand, it just didn't look good. So I decided to darken the greens with a black overlay. Font check for this option, it's Bio Sans. So option 2, it was time to start building some completely new ideas. Using stroked rectangles, I built some X shapes and then expanded the black stroke, added a white stroke, expanded the white stroke and started cutting parts with the shape builder tool. By doing this, I created this nice interlinking design that at a push could be an abstract representation of multiplayer games. Maybe it kind of looks like them cheesy stock photos of 4 people putting their hands together like that when they're kind of doing it in a circle. Or they make a square out of like holding each other's wrists basically, I hope you know what I mean. Once I had the icon that I quite like the look of, thought it was all looking nice and proportional with the nice even spacing around the lines, I found a font that seemed to fit the width of the icon and still look a little bit tech-ish and generally felt fit for the job. And that font is called Schwager Sans. Schwager. 3. Okay, I know earlier in the video I said about not being too literal, but for option 3, I really kind of had to just try something because I just liked the idea as I drew it out in the sketchpad, and that's basically an X with a box. There was no real magic used to create this one, no sort of quick route to it. It was just a series of strokes and a lot of fiddling around with 45-degree angled lines. The idea is that the X is in front of a 3D perspective angled box, so you're kind of looking at the corner of the box, obviously. Creating the separation between the foreground X and the background box was a bit of trial and error. I tried a few different things, like using a gap, but ultimately I preferred when I used a shadow instead, as I thought it looked nice and kind of, I don't know, just looked a little bit more techie and gamerish. And also another thing to consider is the shadows aren't essential. The logo will still work as a single color icon, which it will obviously have to do for some of the use cases. As the icon design ended up pretty bold, I decided to use a bold and modern font underneath to match. I feel like this works pretty well, but I am also open to alternative ideas in the comments. Font check on this one, Sweet Sans. 4. Option 4 was a development on the current curved X that Xbox uses as its logo, like now, on the circle. I was pretty out of my comfort zone here, as I like my logos kind of snap to grid sharp and tidy, and the swooping lines for this option require a little bit more freedom than that. Looking at this again now, I think it might have been better without the line around the outside, but at the time of designing I didn't like the fact that the lines coming out the bottom corners kind of meant that the bottom corners of the square were missing. It just felt like it a little bit gappy and like it was just felt a little bit off, a little bit unbalanced. You'll also notice that I added a little reference to the current logo in the word mark. The extended line on the B was like the little mock-up I made earlier, where basically I turned that into like a little backwards facing arrow. And that just makes the X and the B kind of link together a little bit better, rather than looking like there's a massive gap between them just because of the kind of negative space from the X leading up to the hard edge on the B. Font check for this one is Urbom, is E-R-B-A-U-M, however you say that. 5. Okay, so Xbox are owned by Microsoft, we all know that, so I thought it would be absolutely bloody fantastic if I could somehow develop a logo from the Microsoft logo. There's not too much to say about the process except for the fact that I used a white stroke around the shape to visualise the gaps, and then that way I could easily adjust them until I was happy, and then once I was happy I just expand them and use the shape builder tool to remove the white strokes, otherwise they would obviously show up when I use the logo on a coloured background, so yeah, got to clean up that logo with the shape builder tool once you're happy. So the final product doesn't actually look much like the Microsoft logo. However, I can imagine if they did use this, the logo animation, maybe when you start the Xbox up, could transform from the Windows logo and then kind of rotate and kind of form, morph and form into the Xbox logo. And I thought that would be a cool idea, and it would also keep the Microsoft logo in front of all Xbox players in the world, which just can't be a bad thing. Font check for this option is carbon. Right then guys, as YouTube took the polls away, make sure you leave a comment with your favourite option, and if you've got a bit of time on your hands, let me know why that was your favourite and what you might have done differently. If you're new here, please don't forget to press the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you can get in early when I upload them vids, and also please feel free to share these on your socials to help spread the word about the channel. Anyway, that's enough chatter, let's see them final options.